It's your boy Dax, and we back at it like a bad habit. If you want something in this life, you better go grab it today, baby. We about to make a big play. Come on!
Your wardrobe screams fatherless.
You have more trust in that top Zypin people.
How was your relationship with your father? Just saying, why did you get the attention you wanted?
You need Jesus. That's offensive. Hello everyone, it's Daddy Deelz in the building, and someone finally actually told me what to call my fans, the offenders. Like, that's offensive, the offenders. And I have a guest here with me. His name is Dax, and you have a little affirmation I've heard you do for every single podcast that you've been on.
Setting me up. It goes like this. Man, it's your boy Dax, and we back at it like a bad habit. If you want something in this life, you better go grab it today, baby. We about to make a big play. Come on!
How did you come up with that?
So I was in my dorm room, and it started off as just like me walking to the mirror. I still do this like every morning. I go to the mirror, and I literally tap on it, and I go, you are going to make a big play today. You're going to make a big play. So it started like that, and then it morphed into like a whole rhyming thing over the course of like a couple months in college.
Wow, look at that. And that's what you've said every single day for how long?
Every single day now for 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of dedication.
Right.
Whenever I try to start a habit of making affirmations, it lasts like a day or two, and then I'm like, ugh, that's silly. But now my life coach has me doing like these breathing exercises where I say stuff. It's just easier for me to move while I'm doing it.
See, I used to do it on like my phone, on my story every morning.
Yeah.
And then eventually I just, got tired of it. I just save it now for like interviews and stuff like that to get the energy up. But yeah, I still do it in the mirror every day.
Okay, look at that. So I listened to your song Dear Alcohol, and I could feel the emotions in it. I know alcohol has a negative effect on a lot of people, like it definitely did with me. And I personally rarely drink anymore either. And I was wondering, like, when did you start drinking? Like, when did you start drinking heavily?
Okay, so you want the full breakdown story?
Anything, everything.
Okay, so it starts like this. So when I was 17, I had my first drink. When I was 11, I found the law of attraction. And I was like, I transitioned from just living to now being in control of my life. Obviously, God grants us free will and has, ultimate power, boom, boom, boom. But I found that I could manifest what I thought about. I found this video called The Secret. So now I started focusing on becoming a basketball player. I wanted to play Division I, wanted to play basketball. So like my high school years from the age of 11 to then like 18 was literally just insane focus. Like I was basically mimicking the Kobe Bryant work ethic, the 666, like 6 hours a day, all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So I go through high school not partying at all. I'm like completely opposite of everything. Don't try anything. Don't even talk to girls, nothing. Get to 17 and I'm like, you know what? Shit, I'm the best basketball player in the city now.
Yeah.
I've played on the provincial team, won a national championship, done all this stuff.
Was this in Ottawa?
Ottawa.
Okay.
Ottawa, Canada. So there's a party, and it was actually around like March 22nd, March 23rd, my birthday, which is why like I think the day I stopped now it was the 23rd, so that's how I count the months. But anyways, I sit in my basement alone, and I'm like, okay, you're gonna drink and you're gonna go to this party. But I wanted to do it by myself because I didn't want any outside influences.
Yeah.
Because I've always just been really in my head. So I sit in my basement on the chair where I used to do my dribbling drills. I grab a Heineken, which was left over from my parents' Nigerian Christmas party or whatever it was. And I just look at it and I was like, it was super like a deep moment, So I look at this Heineken. I do everything like this. I'm very deep.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, you're going to drink for the first time. So I start drinking it. I feel a head rush. I drink a couple, stand up. Cause I read that like if you stand up after you drink or you start sitting down, it hits you harder. So the first thing I noticed, like, oh, wow, I'm starting to blink. Like I notice I'm blinking.
Which is funny because most people, like when I'm high, I feel that way. When I'm drunk, I don't feel that way at all.
Wow.
Because like when I'm high, I'm like, I'm blinking, I'm breathing.
Right. You notice you're doing things.
So it's so weird how like just alcohol has a different effect on everyone. Weed has a different effect on everyone. Shrooms have a different effect on everyone. Right.
And see, I've never tried I've never done any drug. For me, it was just always alcohol. So anyways, I take my drink, I go to this party, and I was the most social I've ever been. Like everyone there was like shocked because it was my first party. They're like, yo, Daniel, what's going on, bro? Like, and I'm just there saying what's up. I'm just like this crazy, like outgoing person that I never was. So after that day, I was like, man, I wish I could be that dude all the time.
Yeah.
So then it became like a chase of trying to bridge the gap between that person. And then I end up, going to college, partying every weekend. Obviously, I went to 3 different colleges in 4 years. Casper College, University of Montana, Newman University. Then I start writing poetry, go to LA. First 8 months was crazy. All these events, start drinking. Then I go on my first year of touring. I go on 55 shows with Tech Nine, 33 of my own in America, then 22 of my own in Canada. So my first year of touring, I do 100 shows and I'm drinking before every show. Then I get off that tour. After that, those tours that year, which was like I was basically on tour the whole year, the pandemic hits. Yeah. And I'm pretty much drinking every day during that pandemic. Then it comes to a point where I'm just like, yo, when was the last time like I haven't drank for like 2 consecutive days in a row?
Oh, so you were drinking like, well, I already know this because I listen to other podcasts, but you were drinking like every single day. Yeah,
pretty much. Not always like the point where I was getting like blackout drunk. I wasn't that type of guy, but like I was drinking something pretty much every day. Yeah. And then if like, music was involved or shows or stuff like that, so.
When did you realize that it was a problem?
I never really thought it was until I made this song. Like even my mom has told me before, like, you need to stop drinking. She calls it the dark drink. Yeah. She's Nigerian. Shout out to my mom and my dad. But once I made this song, I was like, okay, well, if this is coming out of me, it probably needs to be addressed. And also I wrote a poem back in college called Dear Alcohol, which is crazy. Yeah. But yeah, that was when I was really like, I think, I need to stop.
Okay, because the song was a little unclear on if you stopped drinking or if you just thought alcohol was a problem for you. So are you actually completely sober?
Yeah, it's been almost 3 now. On March the 23rd of this month, it'll be 3 months.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That is sick. So I think it's interesting that you say like my thoughts get drowned out until I feel all right. Because when I used to drink, I felt like I was really mentally unstable. And alcohol would kind of amplify my emotions. Right. So like if I was like mad at my ex or something like that, when I was sober, could just like forget about it. And when I was drunk, I would call him like 20 times in a row, not remember it, and be like, wow, what did I just do? So, but for you, you're saying that when you drank that your thoughts got drowned out. Is that right?
Yeah, I think what comes along with when you're in the public eye more and more, you start to feel the pressures of people's potentially like judgment. Okay. So, sometimes like let's say I would even like drink before I would post a video on YouTube. Wow. Because it would just make me feel like, fuck it. Whatever happens, happens. Yeah. Or before you like post something or some different type of shit and I would just be like, fuck it. Boom, click, post, whatever happens, happens. Yeah. So it just became like an aid to every single thing I was doing. It was almost like, okay, when I'm shooting a music video, I'm gonna drink a little bit before I perform. I'm gonna drink before I do this. Before I do an interview, I'm gonna drink because it'll get me to this place and drown out the feeling of people's potential judgment.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're fully sober. You don't do any other substances.
Yeah, never tried.
Are you able to still like go to parties and socialize and meet people like while being sober, or is that something you try to avoid now?
I don't party. I really just work out, play basketball. There was like I go through like phases, There was an 8-month period that first time when I went to LA where I was just going to every single event. I would go on Eventbrite and I was like, I need to go to every single music event possible. Yeah. Because I need facial recognition. People need to see my face so they can become familiar with this Dax person. And then after 8 months of me being like, you know what? I'm done trying to meet other people. I need to like meet myself. Yeah. That was when I finally started taking off and I really sort of stopped partying in totality.
Okay, that makes sense. Were you able to deal with some of these thoughts that you were avoiding once you got sober? Or do you still kind of have that anxiety? Like when you post, when you're gonna go do some like music thing, do you still get that anxiety?
I think now I feel it less because I just care less. Yeah. I have less, like, it's like, damn, I've already done what I've done. Obviously, I'm trying to do a lot more. But like I'm at the point now where it's like I really don't care what anyone thinks. Like I can, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I need it less because I feel less like I'm trying to prove myself.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, OnlyFans is totally different, but I went through a whole like I don't want to do OnlyFans because everyone's gonna judge me, and then my experience was a little different. I took a lot of acid and I was like, wow, you know what? I'm going to make one because that's everyone else's judgment except for mine. And then like with TikTok or Instagram with like all the hate comments, you just end up kind of becoming immune to it. Because even on my best days, someone says I look ugly. And then on my worst days, for some reason, people think I'm pretty. It's like, it's just people are always going to have so many different opinions, and it's almost always a projection of how they feel about themselves. Right.
For real. That's gospel.
So did you ever consider yourself an alcoholic, or do you think that it was more just like you were drinking every day, maybe more like alcoholism, or?
See, I don't know, because I'm like super like, even though I was drinking, I'm still like the most motivated motherfucker, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, I was the type to like, you know, even when I would drink before shows, I would drink and do like 500 push-ups. So I was always super functional with whatever I was doing. And like most people never even, like if you ask anybody around me, they'll be like, there's no way he's drunk. There's no way he's drank.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah.
they didn't even like know sometimes because I would just like do it by myself because I started off drinking alone in my basement. So for me, drinking was never a social thing.
Okay.
It was just like, I'm cool just to like sit by myself and literally have these couple of drinks and then go do whatever.
Do you think you have more anxiety with or without alcohol?
When I first started, I would say that I would say like the initial period of drinking is like dope. But then as it goes on to where it's like, damn, I'm still drunk. I'm still like tipsy. I'm still whatever. Like, damn, I wish I wasn't now.
Yeah.
You know?
Because I started drinking way earlier than you.
When did you start?
I started in 8th grade actually, because I didn't even really understand I was drinking, but like I was on a houseboat with my friend's family who were Cuban, and they were just making us all drinks, and they said like in their culture people start drinking a lot younger.
Wow.
So I didn't really understand I was getting drunk. I was just like, wow, this feels great. And then my freshman year of high school I started drinking, and I just partied really, really hard up until about last year, where I was just like, every time I drink, I get anxiety and want to go home.
Right.
So like, why do I keep drinking? So then I went like 4 months sober earlier of last year, drank for 2 months again, and then stopped drinking for another 2 months. And then I just decided like, I'm going to only drink when I go to like dubstep shows because my head gets way too sore to be sober. I don't know how.
Way too what? Sore?
So yeah, because you know, you're headbanging. Like I headbang.
Oh, wow.
So if you're sober, that shit hurts.
Facts.
So for me, it's just about the soreness that I keep drinking, because I can have a lot of fun just being sober, just being on mushrooms, but mushrooms don't take away the soreness in your neck. I don't know what will. Like maybe I need to crush Tylenol up and take it before.
Wow. So I got a question. So
yeah.
because I don't know literally zero thing about drugs. So acid, is it like a drink? Or how does one like?
Oh no, it's like a paper tab that has like a few drops of chemicals on it, and they like put cool little like prints on it. And I think a lot of people make the mistake, because most people I have talked to are like, I hate acid. It was way too much. And I'm like, did you take the full tab? And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, you have to start out with like a fourth of a tab, and then you work your way up. Like my tolerance went all the way up to like 5 tabs my senior year of college. Wow. But acid was like really cool for a while. I don't think they make a lot of clean acid anymore, because when I started taking acid during quarantine, I started having come downs with acid, and you shouldn't be having come downs with acid, at least from all the acid I've taken in my day. Never had a come down.
So you went to college?
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
graduated with a marketing degree from the University of Arizona.
That's amazing. You know what? I was literally saying this to myself. Because I've always just like thinking about shit, and now I'm doing you know, all this alcohol sober stuff. I was like, there's like different phases of it. I think like alcohol feels different when you're under the umbrella of the system, whether it's high school or college. Yeah. And I feel like once you enter the real world and that umbrella is no longer there, like it just feels different.
Yeah. With my experience with being sober, I mean, my sobriety is a little bit different because I wasn't really drinking a lot in the first place of last year. But with the mold poisoning and with the pills I was taking, my health went so down under that I wasn't able to like do anything, or it would basically slow down my healing process. Wow. But I mean, I wasn't able to get up most days, so it's not like what would I have been getting drunk for? Right. However, I was able to, for like the first time ever, like I went to my friend's wedding party completely sober and had just as much fun as I have when I've been drunk.
Right.
And it's like I was able to kind of bridge that gap between like, this is like the drunk or like tripping Adelia that I really like, and I merged it with like the sober Adelia. Right. And like I'm still able to party and have fun, and I just never realized that I could like bring that out of myself when I was like forced to do it. Right.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So I was wondering, I was watching one of your marketing strategies. How did you guerrilla market your song? Because I've heard of guerrilla marketing. I was a marketing major. I feel like I didn't learn a lot because they taught us a lot about how to market this like grocery store product, but they never taught us like real life marketing tools. So how did you guerrilla market your song?
So I think the first thing that I always told myself, like the first thing I did when I started this whole journey is I wrote down the number 1 million on a piece of paper and I put it on my wall in my dorm room. And I was like, if I can individually talk like myself to 1 million people
Mm-hmm.
and what I'm doing is making a positive impact, there's absolutely no way that it's not going to reach the world or to some extent. Because like me personally, 1 million people. So it's like, it's first understanding the importance of one person. Like I tell people all the time, like I've been to like China and performed twice off of responding to a DM.
Wow.
You know, and the girl, her name was like Serena Chill. She had no profile picture, no nothing. But like I've always been one to just, I always, even now I answer probably 50 to 100 DMs just a day because I like doing it.
Yeah.
But when you understand the importance of one person, it can change a lot. So I tell people all the time, I guerrilla market like this, like, okay, I talk to one person. What I'm doing is impacting them. So I ask them to share it with someone else.
Yeah.
And then that eventually like quantifies and multiplies for time and time on end. So it's like just understanding that like one person could literally change your life. You know, there could be a kid right now in Istanbul who DMs me and he might be like, he might have like 18 different group chats and share Dear Alcohol to like his group chats. And then it ends up like exponentially growing to 100,000 people.
Yeah.
So like, I think when you think about it like that, you start to manifest the power of one person.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know?
That's sick. Never thought about that, actually.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
I've just been working. I'm like, how do I get people to like subscribe to my podcast? Because I get a lot more viewers than I get subscribers, I think, because of the ads I run. But I'm like, what about just giving away an Xbox? But I never really thought about doing it like that.
I do stuff like that too, yeah.
Okay, so you do give away stuff.
Yeah,
I feel like people are always so
stuff.
excited.
Yeah, no, it's I think just the concept of giving back, even like your podcast, you're giving people information, you're giving people, so it's like we're constantly in service.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So you mentioned that alcohol helped bridge. Oh my gosh.
Nah, you good.
You mentioned that alcohol helped you bridge the gap between how you are with your friends and how you can be with strangers. Because you, I think you said in one of the podcasts that you used to be really socially awkward with strangers, but you could be very comfortable with people who you're really close to. And kind of like how I just mentioned, for me, I was able to bridge that gap just by being sober and hanging out with people who I didn't really know and dancing with them and having a ball. So have you been able to gain that confidence with strangers now that you're sober?
Yeah, even just like for example, doing this podcast, like, you know, sober, like I don't know you, you know what I mean? But like, we're cool. I think like, yeah, I think I've gotten better at it now that I've gotten older and I've just become more confident within myself. I think, yeah, I think it also comes like I feel like self-confidence comes a lot from just like saying you're going to do something and doing it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I know there's something called like, I think it's like artificial confidence or something like that, where you get a lot of your validation from like things you accomplish. But it's like, I get so fucking proud of myself when I hit a milestone and like when I put work into a goal and then accomplish it. But I know you're supposed to have confidence outside of that too, because like, for example, when I had my mold poisoning, all of a sudden all my confidence was gone because I'm like, I can't work. I can't do anything. I'm so sad. But yeah, there's definitely a confidence that comes from getting shit done.
Right. And then obviously too, just like success, you know, like, like now it's like my focus is sort of like switched where it's like let's say if I'm on a stage, I used to be like, oh my God, I'm nervous. But then I started thinking to myself, well, you know, whoever would be up here would be nervous too. But now it's like, okay, the people who are here to see me.
Yeah.
So it's like they have a higher tolerance for my fuck ups because they fuck with me.
Yeah,
exactly. You know, whereas before it was like, well, I'm trying to fucking prove myself to these people and get them to, you know, mess with me. Yeah. So just that mind shift as well has helped.
Definitely. So coming from Canada, how was it like coming to LA, touring, like going to all these parties? Just because in my experience, like making friends in LA, and I'm even from the area, but making friends in LA is just so hard because people care so much about like what they can gain from you versus like who you are as a person. So how was your experience moving from Ottawa, Canada to here?
So my experience was like sort of different because initially I didn't move right from Ottawa to here. Like it was the only reason I came to America was because of basketball. Yeah. So first I went to prep school in Wichita, Kansas. Then I went to JUCO in Casper, Wyoming. Then D1 in Montana. Then D2 in Kansas again. So by the time I came here, I had been so many different places that it was just like LA was such a big change. But the first thing I noticed that I was like, yo, you can easily get lost out here because like you're so close yet so far to everything. Yeah. Like I remember my first party I went to, like I opened a door and people were doing like crazy stuff on this table and I was like, yo, is that, yo, what the, yo, that's, and I was like, damn. But then you wake up the next morning and you're so far from that. But that night you were like, oh, I'm like right here in the room with, you know? So I think just it's like superficial because it makes you feel like you're closer to your dreams than you're not.
Yeah.
You know?
I think a lot of people in LA think you can get famous by being like best friends with someone who's famous. And I just don't think it works like that in LA, because you see all of these people who try to be famous by having like a best friend who's famous, and then they never achieve the fame that their friend does. I feel like you really have to do that shit on your own.
Yeah. And even me, like I hate the word fame and famous. I'm big on just the word impact.
Yeah.
You know, and I think what happened to me was like I said before, like after that 8 months of just like trying to, you know, have everyone see my face, I met myself for the first time, you know, and actually started really like looking in the mirror and being like, okay, you're the person who's going to make the change, not anyone you meet, you know? So,
yeah. So what change are you trying to have on everyone?
Man, impact. I think the power of words is like so underestimated. Your whole life is formulated by the words you were taught and you learn. You know, you're born, you learn a language, you learn, you know, pronunciation from words. Then you take those words and you carry them throughout your life. And whatever words you hear most are literally the things you become.
Yeah.
You know, like me, my faith and my self-belief, like literally comes from like my mom, you know, and my dad. But like, you know, a lot of just like the stuff I just remember being told by my mom, like, you're special, you're going to make a difference. You know, God has a plan for you. And just the consistency of that over years quantifies in just to like a confident ass motherfucker.
Yeah. So you talk a lot about manifestation in one of the podcasts that you were in. How were you able to manifest at such a young age? Because like when I was 11, I was really insecure. I didn't really like myself. I was bullied really hard. So I almost felt like the negative things people told me manifested in my life for so many years. So it's really hard to kind of change that little voice in your head.
Right.
Like right now when I have negative voices in my head, I literally just ignore them and try to like keep reinforcing the good voices. And a lot of good things have manifested from it. But how did you learn at such a young age, like the power of words?
I think it was like, even beyond the power of words, just like the power of consistency, you know, because I was like, so I made the decision to play basketball at 11.
Yeah.
And, you know, like no one in my family played basketball. Like there's no professional athletes. There's no nothing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to manifest this. So I learned quickly that like, okay, if I do this action enough period of times, I'm going to get good at it.
Yeah.
So like, let's say the average person takes, you know, 100 jump shots a day. I was the guy taking 1,000.
Yeah.
You know, then waking up at 4. You know, then doing another workout after the game, where it was like I went from not literally no one in the city knew who I was to being the best basketball player in the city, making the provincial team, all this stuff. So I learned with basketball the power of repetition.
Yeah.
And I feel like anything in life can be manifested if you do it and say it enough. So what I did with my mind, I was like, one day I woke up and I was like, okay, well, I took like the inventory. I saw a video and it was like, take the inventory of things you say during a day and you'll find out that most of them are negative. So I was like, damn, most of the hate is like coming from me. Even when I play basketball, like I'm thinking I'm not going to make this shot. It's me. So I was like, okay, I got to change my inner self-talk. So that's where my affirmation came from. It's your boy Dax. We back at it like a bad habit. If you want something in this life, go grab it. And today we're going to make a big play. So I just started saying that shit every day, even in basketball. I'm going to make a big play, big play, big play, big play, big play. And that's why I really just started to like, damn, over time, now I'm always just optimistic. Yeah. You know, glass half full.
That's sick. I think it's funny that you mentioned that alcohol essentially makes you horny in one of your podcasts and makes you want to be able to control your sexual urges because you want to be a high value man. Now, do you agree with the version of being a high value man that the Fresh and Fit podcast talks about?
Explain it to me.
Have you seen the Fresh and Fit podcast?
I've definitely seen clips. You know what I mean? I've definitely seen clips, man. I've definitely seen clips.
Their idea of a high value man is like kind of being dominant and controlling over women. And like some of the shit they say is like a woman is not allowed to cheat on a man, but a man is allowed to cheat on a woman because it means different things to them. Or like if he said if a woman has an Instagram, that's cheating, or if a woman wears short shorts in public, that's cheating. But he can post shirtless, you know? So I was just wondering if your version of a high value man aligns with their thoughts.
Okay, so we get into the nitty gritty now. So I've actually been listening to a lot of their stuff. R.I.P. Kevin Samuels as well. I've listened.
Oh, is he part of it?
Well, like I would just say we called him the Godfather. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like the things he was talking about. I've been just listening to a lot of different things. I think it's an important topic, and just nowadays because obviously there's a big switch. I think that the way potentially sometimes things are said or maybe even like clipped may come off as wrong. But I always try to look at what the actual message is. Me and my personal beliefs, like I just don't think cheating is dope regardless.
Yeah.
But I understand the biological differences they're talking about as to why it may be different for each gender.
See, it might come off that way, but like I have a lot of girlfriends, especially in the sex work industry, who like if they fuck a guy, it means nothing to them. Like it's like talking to a guy fucking a girl and it means nothing to them. Like literally, like they can like go back to their boyfriends or husbands, but for them it's more of an open relationship where their boyfriends and husbands like know that they're fucking other guys. But they're like, oh, work is done, I got my nut, and now I'm going back. So, and I actually see that a lot in women. I am not one of those women. I kind of wish I could be, but something else that you've mentioned is like when you have sex or when people have sex, there's a big energy exchange happening. And I personally feel the energy exchange a lot, so I just can't really hook up with people. So can you explain that energy exchange that you're talking about and why you personally choose not to hook up with a lot of people?
I think first I feel like obviously like the sex industry, like obviously I think that's they're not the general public.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like most women probably might not feel like that. Not that I'm not an expert on women, but but I feel like there's a big exchange in sex. I'm trying to choose my words very carefully here. For me, like it's time consuming.
Yeah.
And it's like my focus on trying to make this impact and stuff like that, like I can't spend it courting a bunch of women because it's just a waste of time, to continuously meet new girls and then have to like be cool with them, all this and that. And that's why I just don't do it anymore because to me, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, getting to know people is really time consuming. I have a lot of girlfriends who really like going on a lot of dates and like getting to know a lot of people. And I'm like, I can't even get to know some of my new friends, let alone a potential suitor. And something that I think is really interesting is like how, I mean, you've become such a successful and impactful person and you don't really date or do any of that. And it's really hard to put so much energy into multiple things. Kind of like you have to put your focus in a few things to be successful. And
to me, it's because like I realized the difference. Like, I was like, I was an overnight janitor making $725. I, put myself through college, through a basketball scholarship. So it's like I've been broke and I'm more successful now. So like I remember what it was like, trying to talk to a girl back then versus the difference now. And it's like night and day. So for me, it makes no, like I would just tell like any dude, like focus on your passion, focus on your calling, focus on your goal. Because as you continue to become more successful in whatever realm that is, and just in life in general, you're going to continue to have more options.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you put a lot of importance with being able to control your sexual urges, and I'm wondering, is there any logic other than you want to focus on your work? Like, is it anything religious, or is there any other deeper meaning?
Any other deeper meaning? I would just say like this, like I got to a point where it was like, there's no point in even having sex with someone if you don't want them to sleep there when it's over. I feel like just like as a man, like once you're done, like it's, you go from a monster to like, like we're almost animals when we're having sexual intercourse. You go from like an animal to just like, oh my God, I'm a totally different person now. So it's like, if you can't even stomach that person that you were just with sleeping beside you after it, usually it's just a waste of time. So controlling these sexual urges, does it control jerking off for you? I don't do that anymore.
Really?
Personally. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Cause like, I don't really have sex, but I jerk off a lot.
See, but I'm also the guy, like I've only ever busted inside of a girl once in my life. I think I hold the world record. I'm not even gonna lie.
Really?
Yeah,
only
in my life, in 28 years, I've only
like the first time you had sex, like you lost your virginity, you didn't come in like 2 seconds?
No.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've only bust inside of a girl once, with condom or without a condom.
That's crazy.
I think that's a world record.
That's probably a world record.
Yeah.
So is coming just like not a big thing for you? Like,
No, I just pull out.
Okay. Oh, you pull. So you still come. Okay.
Yeah. Still. Oh no. You know what I mean? You know. But I'm talking about like the actual like inside of somebody.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that any part of that urge to control sexual urges comes from like shame that society puts around like what sex is? Because I grew up in a very religious household, and like growing up, like sex or anything sexual, like wearing short shorts, like anything that was like portrayed as sexual, like I was taught to be ashamed of that. Do you think any part of that comes from that?
I think that's more on like the women's spectrum, probably. I feel like as a man, we're not really.
You guys aren't shamed as much,
well. You know what I mean? It's like, so it was never really that. It was just like me. Like I now feel this responsibility because I have these words in my head that I'm able to put on these beats and make an impact with. So I feel a responsibility to society to control myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like, man, I had my crazy fun years as a college basketball player doing all this shit. Like, I don't want to do that for the rest. I don't need to.
Yeah.
So.
What do you think of today's hookup culture?
What is today's hookup culture?
Kind of like, it's a lot of, I feel like, one night stands, in my opinion, or like if you're fucking with one girl, you're probably hooking up with like 5 other girls, and like just kind of what do you think?
Most guys can't even hook up with 5 girls at one time.
Okay. When I went to college, there were like 5 girls to a guy. Like the ratio was crazy. Like I found it harder as a girl to hook up with men than men had.
But those guys that are having the 5 girls are very few and far. Not like there's not a lot of guys who are getting 5 girls.
Okay, so that's not the majority. In college, no. I feel like if
like
you were in a frat,
me, like until I became like that best basketball player in my city, it was like hard.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, most 90% of dudes aren't just like our girls aren't throwing themselves at them. It's a small percentage of like the cool guys in high school, is the ones who like started partying early and smoking early and blah, 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 like. So
that's like really funny. I just feel like the University of Arizona. So I'll tell you a little bit about what they tell the pledges there, and then the pledges then tell the next pledges. The frats.
Oh wow.
So the fraternity brothers would teach the pledges how to like kind of emotionally manipulate women to like not give them attention, not give them compliments, not do all of these things, at least in some of the frats, like because I would be friends with the older guys, so I'd be there when they were telling the pledges of stuff. But basically they would be like, do not give the girls any validation and they'll come running towards you. So it's like even medium ugly guys were getting like bitches.
Oh wow.
Somehow, someway, because the emotional shit worked. Like as a freshman, I was like, well, I want attention. Like, why isn't he paying attention to me? Do I have to throw myself at him? It did. It worked. It worked for a while.
Wow.
Until
I think the dating scene is probably, it's crazy, man. I think there's more. It's like I said, it's easier for a girl to get a date at the end of the day.
Yeah, probably.
So it's like, because you guys are the one that we have to approach you, and there's good looking girls and all this stuff like that. So. I don't know. I think it's tough. I think it's tough. It's easy to maybe hook up with people, but it's hard to maybe settle down.
Yeah.
Not to only mention with the addition of social media and people in constant comparison. And then, you got most of these, platforms, sometimes the things they're portraying aren't relative to the actual public.
Yeah.
To 90% of people. So it's like most people are trying to compare their lives to something that's not actually reality.
Exactly. I mean, just an example with me, and most people think I'm a whore based off of my social media, but I say whore in a very endearing way. Like personally, I don't think the word whore is a bad word. Like as a sex worker, I try to reclaim the word whore, but a lot of people just assume I fuck a bunch of people because.
What's your definition of it?
My definition, I just think like. I just think the word whore is like fun and flirty. Okay. And it's like, I do think like the word whore, at least like for me and my friends, is kind of like the way I like to call people whores is like you're reclaiming your sexuality. Like you're reclaiming that thing that like people try to like shame you for. So it's like, I personally don't think it's bad for a woman to hook up with a lot of people. I kind of think it's necessary sometimes to like find yourself. Like I had my phase when I was like a freshman and a senior. Those were like my 2 whore phases. And then after that, I just like mellowed out for years. But I do think it's necessary to try to find yourself. And that helped me figure out like my sexuality and what I wanted to do. So just like reclaiming that word is like fun.
That's wild. That's wild.
So I thought it was really interesting where you said woman with like you wouldn't prefer a woman with a higher body count, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. So what do you consider a high body count?
What do I consider a high body count? Man, I think once you start getting like high, like once you start getting like 10 and over, I would prefer, like I said on that different podcast, I would prefer 5 and under.
Yeah.
I think once you start getting 10 and stuff like that, you know, obviously, like I said, this is a relative conversation and stuff, but for me,
you
know, my personal self, I would feel like that. I just, like I said, like, you know, the more you have, obviously, the more you have sex, the more you expect. You know what I mean? So it's like...
I heard you say that in the other podcast, and I just wanted to say, if women have a higher body count with a bunch of one-night stands, their expectations are a lot lower than if you date someone. Because if you're dating someone, they try a lot harder in the bedroom than my one-night stand. So out of my many bodies that I have fucked, only one man... Actually, no. It's about two men have tried to make me come.
Oh, wow.
Only 2 men have set the bar high. My whole freshman year, like my little hoe phase, not one man made me come.
Oh, wow.
So
I feel like I don't know, for like the most girls here. Like I know, like usually when they're like super, like here's the thing, I talk to like thousands of people. You know what I mean? And like for the most part, like when there's like an overzealous lust to just continuously have sex, usually there's like trauma in the past that's like linked to it.
Yeah.
From just the bunch of people I talk to. So it's like, I don't know. I wouldn't tell my daughter. Yeah. And I don't think even you would tell your daughter to be like, yo, have a hoe phase and just go crazy so you can find yourself. Yeah. Like, I don't think I would never tell my daughter that shit.
See, I'm not planning on having kids, but if I would tell my friends' kids that.
Wow.
I felt like it was so, like, it just helped me find myself a lot. And granted, I wasn't like the biggest fan of who I was when I was hooking up with these people, but I felt like there was a lesson with each person,
right?
If that makes sense. Like I wasn't very confident. I didn't really like myself. However, I don't think I'm a lot of women, because a lot of women, like when they have sex, it's like they love having sex. With me, it was more like of a validation thing. Like I had sex to have validation, but then it's like the more I had sex with these guys I didn't really like, the more I started to realize like, oh, this kind of fucking sucks.
Right.
And then I started to like get validation for myself instead of them. But I don't think I would have done that if they didn't treat me like shit.
So if that's how you feel, why would you tell your people's daughter to?
Just if they're going through the same thing, you know? I mean, everyone needs to like experience sex in like a different way. I mean, if they feel the need to go through a hoe phase, like who am I to say don't do it? Because I learned so much about myself, because that's what I learned about myself. But other people learn a lot of different things about themselves during like their hoe phases. Yeah. Like I have a friend who just likes to go on a lot of different dates with people. And, you know, someone could consider it being a hoe phase because she sleeps with a lot of them. But for her, it's like, I like different things about each person, and they're each teaching me what I want and traits of like the person who I actually want to end up with. So it's like each person's hoe phase is a little bit different and like what they learn about themselves.
Yeah, I think it's just it's dangerous for the general public, because like, you know, your friends are like, you know, people who do sex work don't make up a majority of the population. You
that's
know,
fair.
Like 95% of people don't do that. So it's like, it makes sense for you and maybe you can handle it, but even now you're saying like, oh, well, I was going through this and I was going through that, and now I know myself, so I don't really do it as much. It's like, so then why would you want to push that to most of the people?
Yeah, I just think everyone needs to like learn different stuff. Like right now, my technical hoe phase, like I found out I was bi through OnlyFans, so it's like now I can hook up with women here and there.
Yeah, but they don't need to like learn what though. What do people necessarily need to learn through sexual shit that's so important? There's so many other things in life that are so more important than finding yourself sexually. You know, like just find your purpose, work through that. But I think in terms of just like going like, I understand people like, okay, I'm going through my whole phase, but it's not something that should be encouraged, because in the reality, no one with any common sense is going to tell their child to do the same thing.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like even like I would even say like someone who does sex work, respect, I have no problem with you. Everything's great. But I don't think they're going to recommend their daughter to do the same thing. I don't think they would want that for their child. So if that's the case, then that means you subconsciously know you shouldn't be spreading the message because you wouldn't tell your child the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like it just depends on like what your ethics, morals are, etc. Because I feel, I have very different like morals than a lot of other people with sex work. But I do think a lot of parents, for example, the reason that they don't want to like impose they wouldn't want their kid to be doing sex work. Like for my parents, for example, it's because of their religious beliefs.
I think it's beyond religious beliefs. I just think like, you know, most people don't want someone they care about showing themselves to the world. I don't even think it has anything to do with religion. It's just like the human nature. You're protective over what's yours. Whether you're a father, whether you're a mother, whether you're a daughter and you have a brother, or you're a brother who has a sister, you're going to be protective over something that's yours. So I think everyone should be able to do whatever the hell they want. But I think obviously now with social media, it's becoming popular to be like, oh, this is this is that, this is that. But at the end of the day, I feel like the actual subconscious being knows that it's not something they would want to encourage on their offspring. And if it's something you wouldn't tell your offspring, that innately means you don't even actually fuck with it. Yeah.
Do you feel like that respect, like someone's respect for themselves, is tied to sexual activity?
For sure.
Okay. So like you personally believe that if someone is having sex with a lot of people that they don't respect themselves?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say they don't respect themselves, but I think there is like I said, most people I've talked to, when they're super, super promiscuous or different things, there's usually trauma in their life that led to them feeling like that.
Yeah.
Not feeling validated, not feeling like maybe there was like sexual abuse or sexual assault in the past where they were now, you know, continuously looking for the, like, even though they don't know it now, they like to do this, they like to do that because of what happened to them in their younger days. You know, even look like at people who were like abused or different things like that, and they end up maybe like having questions about their own sexual preference because of what happened to them in the past, and it stemmed from once that event happened.
Yeah.
Or, you know, or PTSD or all these different things. Or you look at even alcohol abuse. A lot of things that we indulge in are because of things that have happened to us in the past, and we're using them to suppress.
Yeah.
So like alcohol addiction is because you're dealing with something. I got wasted because I didn't want to deal with myself tonight. You know, alcohol addiction, drug addiction. You know, sex is an addiction. So I feel like it stems from the same thing, something you're trying to suppress. So someone who is normally overly sexually active, especially I feel like in the woman sense, sometimes, not all the time, obviously there's exceptions to the rule, but it's usually linked to some type of trauma.
Okay. Yeah. So, but you said in one of the podcasts that you were in, you went through a little hoe phase when you played basketball, right?
Right.
So if like a woman, for example, I know you prefer a woman with like a body count lower than 5, but if she went through a hoe phase, the amount of years that you went through a hoe phase for, like, would it still bother you?
So I would explain it like this. So imagine like as a man, and man, I'm not saying we're different. I'm not going to even get into all that, but like, so for me, right, let's say I'm from the age of 0 to 17, I'm socially awkward or whatever it is. You know, you're not really getting attention from girls. You know, I didn't have a girlfriend, all this type of stuff. You know what I mean? I lost my virginity at 18, whatever. You're not really getting attention, which is for the reality for most men. Yeah. Right? And then all of a sudden, you become the best basketball player in the city. You start to gain more success, and now more girls like you. Yeah. It's tough and then you go play Division I basketball and do all these things, but you haven't received any attention your whole life. So this is almost just like, oh my God, I'm finally now like attracted to you guys because I like play Division I basketball and I'm on the team and I score 20 points. It's like, it's hard to then at that point be like, well, I'm not going to like have some fun. Yeah. You know? So I feel like that's where that came from. You almost feel like you've been deprived from it your whole life. Yeah. Whereas if you're like, you know, maybe you're a pretty girl, there's constantly men throwing themselves at you your whole life. Yeah. You know, so like the experiences are different. I'm not trying to say which one's better or not, but I'm just saying for me, I felt that way, which is why I was like, at that point, I'm like, damn, like, I might as well, you know,
Might as well get that.
Try a little bit, like see what's going on. You know, I've been deprived, you know. So, but then I start to get older, and I then start to realize, like, you know, this isn't the way. I'm not going to sustain and do this my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, if I want to stay focused, I can't be chasing around women.
It's very time consuming. I haven't dated in like almost a year. And even the guy I was like, I went on like a few dates with this guy, and then he drove me crazy after a few dates.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, dating is just, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, see, I don't even really fuck with dating.
Yeah. Well,
know?
it was like one of those situations where like he was one of my friends, like really good friends. It wasn't like I was going on a lot of random dates. And then I fucked with him really heavy at first, and then he just started to annoy me.
Oh, wow.
So, and then before that, it had been like over a year.
Damn.
Something like that. So I want to get back into the power of manifesting. So did you ever have any of those like self-doubt moments where you like didn't believe in yourself? And did you ever find that like that would manifest in your daily life?
Not necessarily for the things that I chose in life. Like I've always chosen very few things. I do very few things. Everything else is just like irrelevant. People have always called me like even an aloof. Or like sometimes like if you're not within the actual like realm of what my reality is, like you just don't even exist.
Yeah.
So it was like I only did basketball. There was nothing else. Nothing else existed. I didn't do anything. I didn't want to have a birthday party, nothing.
Wow.
So it's like I never had self-doubt because I was just like, I'd committed.
Yeah.
You know, so I was just like, this is happening. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to go to America and play basketball. So the only time I guess self-doubt would come, maybe it was like in a game if I miss a couple shots. You know, then I'm like, am I going to hit the next one? But then I would just have to get over that. But I would say like not necessarily self-doubt as much. It was more like everything I couldn't control was what I had doubt in.
Okay.
Because I knew I could control myself. I can work out 4 times a day. I can take 1,000 shots. I can study film. But I can't control this coach fucking with me.
Yeah.
I can't control me not, you know, having a back injury when I first got to D1. So I was everything within my control. I didn't doubt it was other things that I couldn't control that I did.
Okay. So you don't really struggle with self-doubt that often then, or do you?
No, because I never do something I'm not good at. You know, like I play basketball and now I make music. You know, when it comes to cooking, you know, yeah, or this or chess, I don't even know how to play.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to try because I know if I'm going to do it, I got to be the best at it. So I'm not even going to.
Did this competitive nature start like when you were really young?
I think so. I think I was always just like, I was always wanted to just mentally dominate. Like where it was like, whoever's watching just knows they don't have a chance. Yeah. And I got that really from like Kobe Bryant because that was my, like, you know, I would say my quote unquote idol growing up and just my favorite player, man, R.I.P.
Yeah.
But I just really like adapted that Mamba mentality from him that just like, you want to work so hard where people don't even feel like they have a chance. So my competitiveness really came through like the journey and the hard work that went into it. Yeah,
that makes sense. I thought it was really interesting that you were a janitor for, what was it, 2.5 years?
Yeah, 2.5.
And you used your, like, the opportunity of being a janitor to, like, work on your music and write poems, and, like, any extra time you were able to do that. And I just thought it was interesting because when I was in college and I was working, I was literally working, getting past the shift to try to, like, you know, be able to, like, sustain, like, pay for things.
Right.
But you were using it to get the next step in your future. So what advice do you have for people just like basically just living day to day, not really going after things?
I would say you got to define what is happiness to you. Like to me, I established early on that like a lot of my happiness derives from work.
Yeah.
Like I like to work and that gives me happiness. And I sort of got that from my parents. So define your own happiness and then you got to, you know, decide what you're willing to give up.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, when I was the janitor doing the overnight, I was also playing college and, you know, going to school, I had to give up sleep. I was like, okay, so I'm willing to give up sleep.
Oh my God, how much sleep did you get?
During those 2.5 years while doing all that, because I worked overnight and went to school and played and was trying to do the music. So, man, I would say anywhere from like, on average, like 3 to 4. hours maybe.
But
I would periodically nap. I got that from Kobe too.
Okay.
They used to call me like I was a sleeper. I could fall asleep. If I close my eyes right now for like 5 minutes, I'll fall asleep. Just like my mom. So I would periodically nap.
Okay, so you were sleeping more than 3 to 4 hours a night. It was just like through napping?
Yeah, at night sometimes it could be 2 hours because I would get off of work like 2 or 3, then try to like do some stuff music wise, or I'd bike to the studio, record. So like I would sleep in every class though, and it was understood by all the teachers like Daniel sleeps.
Yeah. Oh, so your name is Daniel, not Dax?
Yeah, my name's Daniel.
Okay, how did you come up with Dax?
So Dan is Dan. In math, usually the variable is X, so my substitute for X is N. So Dax is Dan.
Do you prefer to be called Daniel or Dax?
It's weird. By like people who know me, I like to be called Daniel. For people who don't really know me as much, I prefer Dax.
Okay, that makes sense. Kind of like Deelz, Adelia for me.
Right. When people say Daniel, I like if I don't know you and you say Daniel, I sort of get like PTSD. I'm just like, it like shocks me.
Yeah, it's like your alter ego.
Right.
Like you're performing alter ego. So, do you have any final words? Where can people find you? What do you want to plug?
I always say, man, search Dax, DAX. If I don't come up, I'm not doing my job.
Okay.
DAX, put it in.
Put it in. You can find me at it's Deelz, ITSDEELZ.com, because I get my social media deleted a lot.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I just had my Instagram deleted for impersonating myself, and now my backup one just got deleted for impersonating myself, so that's great.
Wow.
I get my Instagram deleted every few months. Not even for sexual stuff. I just get it deleted
That's probably people reporting you or something.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's Dax!
Thanks, guys.